Jungles are the most mysterious and intriguing landscapes in the world. They hide a lot of secrets and mysteries from our watchful eyes and bury numerous treasures within their dense biodiversity. In the heart of these uncharted territories, you will find a lot of extraordinary items that were either once lost or never even believed to have existed. Prepare to embark on a rough ride as we unravel the 15 strangest things ever discovered in the jungle. Number 15. A real-life Tarzan. In 2013, a remarkable discovery was made in the dense Vietnamese jungle. It was none other than a real-life Tarzan, a man who had lived in the wild for so long that he had become one with it. This man, named Ho Van Lang, along with his father, had fled to the jungle during the Vietnamese War in 1972. After half of their family had been killed, his father took him into the wild for their safety. Lang was a little over 2 years old at the time, and he grew up in the dense bushes until he was found in his 40s. While in the jungle, they farmed corn, survived off plants and wild animals, and lived in a timber hut that was 5 meters above the ground. His father had a phobia for leaving the jungle because he believed that the war was still ongoing, but when his health had deteriorated, they had no choice but to return to civilization. The duo were found clothed in loincloths made of tree bark, indicating just how much they had adapted to their life off the grid. Due to his disconnect from civilization, Lang had no idea women existed, just like the popular Tarzan himself. But when he discovered modern society, he was fascinated by it. Unfortunately, his new life was cut short in 2021 when he died of liver cancer at age 52. If anything, Lang's story is real proof of the many unspoken happenings that the jungle harbors in its landscapes. Wreckage of a World War II plane. A man found a 70-year-old World War II plane hidden in the desert, but when he looked inside, he was left speechless. It was a lost fighter jet that was used in the devastating war. Although it was not exactly discovered in a jungle, the find was intriguing all the same. The wreckage sat unbothered in the hot sands of the desert, with debris scattered everywhere. Investigations revealed it was a British Royal Air Force P-40 Kitty Hawks, which was one of many fighter bombers that fought against the Nazis in North Africa. The man who had found the wreckage, a Polish oil worker who was on a quest to explore the Egyptian desert, took pictures of it, which later went on to shake various media outlets. Some of the plane's features, like the cockpit, guns, and ammunition, were still intact even after the long years it stayed rotting in the desert. A little investigation into the spectacle revealed that the plane likely crashed in the desert in 1942, and there was a high chance the pilot was Flight Sergeant Dennis Copping, a soldier who'd gone missing around the same year. They believe Sergeant Copping was taking the plane for maintenance and repairs when it came down at the site. Parachute remains near the wreck indicated that the young pilot had most likely survived the crash. However, that is as far as evidence can show the fate of the young pilot, as no one knows if he died in the scorching desert or how he went missing thereafter. This plane had been used to protect Allied infantry troops who fought the Nazis, but now its remains serve as the last or latest clue to unraveling the story of its pilot, who had not returned home since he left to serve his country. Number 13. Breathing forest. A group of hikers in Quebec, Canada were stunned when they came across a breathing forest. From where they stood, the landscape looked as if it was swaying as the grass and trees were moving in a heaving pattern. At first, they thought it was probably tremors from the ground from an earthquake of some sort, but as it kept moving in sequence, without any consequence whatsoever, they assumed it might be from a natural cause and thus was no cause for alarm. Scientists explained that the movement was only due to an unusually strong gust of wind, which was impacted by a heavy thunderstorm, and this force made the wind tug at the forest floors, 344 to 519. Even though this phenomenon had real scientific explanations, it still is a reminder that the forest is a hub of many unknown natural occurrences that we have yet to uncover and study. Number 12. A lost Mayan city. In this bizarre turn of events, what started as a science project by a 15-year-old boy named William Gaduri from Quebec, Canada had unwittingly evolved to be a fascinating discovery made in the jungle in recent times. This discovery gained the attention of eyes and ears in the archaeological and historical field, as the little project employed the use of stargazing to pinpoint a city that had long since been lost since the Mayan era. Gaduri theorized that the ancient pre-Columbian civilization used to build their cities using the overhead constellations as a guide. With this knowledge, he made use of images from the Canadian Space Agency and Google Earth, and gathered references to and imagery of other known Maya settlements to pinpoint and discover marks that indicated a possible hidden city deep in the Yucatan jungles of Mexico. the satellite images revealed that the lost city could be among the largest ever built by the Mayans, who had thrived between 300 and 700 AD. With this connection mapped out, the science and history community hopes for more findings in the dense jungle. Although they have not proven Gaduri's theory is false or invalid, scientists believe that there is a good chance it might be true. After all, who can tell what ancient treasure mystery lies in the thick forest? Number 11. Marine on land. A shocking incident occurred in the forested Marajo Island close to the Amazon River in Brazil. This incident left marine biologists stunned and completely puzzled by its occurrence. There, lying amidst trees and logs of wood, was the carcass of a young humpback whale. This bizarre sight was spotted by the members of the conservation group, Bicho d'Agua, when their attention had been drawn to a group of vultures that were circling a mangrove on the island. The lifeless humpback, which was about 26 feet long, was lodged in thick shrubs about 50 feet from the shore. By their calculations, it had been dead for at least several days and was just lying there decomposing. Although the discovery was shocking itself, the mere fact that the whale was even in the vicinity at all raised a lot of questions among marine biologists. 9/11 to 1041. According to marine experts, humpback whales should have already migrated thousands of miles to Antarctica to feed by this time. So why was a dead one washed up ashore, about 4,000 miles away from its expected feeding ground? This question made the whole discovery shrouded in mystery. Regardless, it also added more intrigue to the whole situation. Perhaps there is more to marine life and forestry that humans are yet to comprehend, considering how vast these landscapes truly are. Number 10. An ancient sanctuary. An ancient sanctuary is not something you would expect to see in the middle of the jungle, is it? Well, in a Vietnam forest, there is a sanctuary known as My Son, which was built between the 4th and 13th centuries. It is a unique cultural ground that owes its spiritual origins to Indian Hinduism. My Son's sanctuary is graphically illustrated by the remains of a series of fabulous tower temples located in between a vast forest and mountain ranges. It was the religious and worshiping capital of the Champa Kingdom of old, and now serves as a World Heritage Site for UNESCO in Indochina. Sadly, a big portion of its architecture was destroyed by the American bombing that ensued a single week during the Vietnam War. It was only years after the war in 1999 that UNESCO recognized the region. The construction techniques used by the Cham builders to create this architectural marvel are still unknown to date. This goes to show just how lacking modern-day knowledge is when it comes to things of old, and just a relic hidden in the jungle led us to this conclusion. Number 9. Sigiriya, the eighth wonder of the world Pride Rock. As we know it in The Lion King, is a piece of formidable rocky structure surrounded by rocks and bare ground. In this case, picture Sigiriya, a real-life version of the Pride Rock but in the middle of luscious canopies of trees in a dense forest in Sri Lanka. The remarkable structure, also known as the Lion Rock, was constructed in the 5th century by the visionary King Kashyapa. It is so beautiful that it is considered the 8th wonder of the world today. Its unique architectural features and historical significance add to its appeal and make it one of the awe-inspiring artifacts situated in a jungle in modern times. Sigiriya is an ancient stone fortress that was artistically constructed by the Aboriginal population of Sri Lanka ages ago. Within its walls are gardens, pools, water features, and more. Also, the structure has a lion statue guarding the entrance to the palace, thus solidifying its name as the Lion Rock. According to Sri Lankan history, King Kashyapa, the firstborn son of King Datusena, who was the first king of the royal Mauryan dynasty, designed and oversaw the construction of the fortress. When he eventually died later on, Sigiriya became a Buddhist monastery and remained as such until the 14th century. Currently, Sigiriya is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it attracts thousands of visitors worldwide annually. It is most easily accessible to visitors by bus or train, and visitors can also learn all about its fascinating history at the Sigiriya Archaeological Museum. This site is not the typical attraction you would find anywhere else, especially in a jungle. So what do you think? Does its location in the forest not make it worth the experience? Number 8. Strangers in the forest. Did you know that the Aborigines we know and see in movies still exist today? Scores of these local people are scattered within the vast and dense Amazon rainforest and all live a life of seclusion from civilization. These people live in villages and carry out their daily activities in the wild. They feed on animals and plants and wear apparel made from plants and hide. If you ever believed everyone in every corner of the earth should have evolved in one way or the other, especially in this century of information and technology, then you are sorely mistaken, because the vast majority of people who live deep in this forest have very little to no contact with the outside world. What's more, This pattern of living has endured for centuries, yet none of the Aborigines had sought a better settlement to call home over the years. For a long time, people thought the very existence of these tribes was just rumors because they believed a colony of people couldn't live without the necessities of the modern age, such as the internet, proper shelter, and electricity, among other things. This belief, however, was overturned in the late 2000s when a film crew from the BBC visited the forest and captured amazing aerial footage of one of the tribes in the region. They flew about a mile high above the jungle and used their powerful cameras to zoom in on the natives down below. From then on, a lot of explorers ventured into the forest to document these Aborigines and their lifestyles. With this kind of detail hidden in the dense bushes of the Amazon forest, who knows what other awe-inspiring secrets lie within? Number 7. The world's oldest forest. You are probably thinking this forest is probably a wide expanse of old trees with dried-up roots and branches, or something similar to oak trees that look sage. If that is what came to your mind when you heard the words, the world's oldest forest, then you couldn't be more wrong. What scientists discovered in an abandoned quarry near Cairo in New York was not a land full of dead and shrunken trees, but a land full of fossil roots. From their deduction, the 385-million-year-old rocks in the area contain the fossilized, woody roots of dozens of ancient trees. The site was first discovered in 2009 by Christopher Berry, a paleobotanist at Cardiff University in the United Kingdom, and his team of scientists. As they studied it, they found out that some of the fossilized roots were 15 centimeters in diameter, and they formed 11-meter-wide horizontal radial patterns spreading out from where the vertical tree trunks once stood. They deduced that this pattern could have potentially belonged to Archaeopteris, a type of tree with large woody roots and woody branches, which had leaves that are related in some way to modern trees. The quarry floor on which the ancient forest was found is said to be about half the size of a U.S. football field. Berry believed that it represents a horizontal slice through the soil just below the surface of the ancient forest. In essence, the ground on which he and the other researchers were threading were more or less the roots of ancient trees. Scientists like Berry believe that his finding marks a turning point in Earth's history. When trees developed these roots, they helped pull carbon dioxide, CO2, from the air and lock it away, radically shifting the planet's climate and leading to the atmosphere we know today. The oldest forest the Earth has come to know lives in a modern jungle, but still plays a role in the world's ecosystem to date. Nothing can be more ironic and iconic than this. Number 6. Common potu. In the forests of South America, there is a rather unusual bird called the potu, which is otherwise known as the ghost bird. It has a set of piercing yellow eyes that appear too animated to be real. This bird species can be found in many forested parts of Bolivia and Venezuela. They are nocturnal by nature and are often very rare and difficult to spot, hence their infamous title as the ghost bird, 2220 to 2318. Potu birds come out in the black blanket of night to feast on insects and disappear into the safety of the trees where their feathers blend in perfectly. If you ever catch a glimpse of this bird, count yourself lucky because it is just one creature that Mother Nature has decided to keep away from view. Number 5. A World War II relic. If you have ever been an avid reader of World War II, then the name Isoroku Yamamoto should not sound foreign to you. He was a Japanese admiral and fighter pilot who had been a menace to the US during the war. His name is the most exalted in the history of the Imperial Japanese Navy, and part of the reasons why he had remained an icon in the war was the role he played in the attack on Pearl Harbor in the US, an attack they assert was instigated by Yamamoto himself. Yamamoto had triggered the US's entry into the war after the attack on them left more than 2,400 Americans dead and another 1,000 people injured. The Americans quickly launched Operation Vengeance, where American intelligence was able to decode an encrypted Japanese radio message and foretell Japanese movements near Bougainville. It was a revenge plot that had ultimately succeeded as Yamamoto's plane, a Mitsubishi G4M named Betty, was gunned down by the Allied forces in 1943 before it crashed in the thick jungle of Papua New Guinea's autonomous Bougainville region, 1415 to 1604. John Bolsko, owner of Bougainville Experience Tours, reported that the wrecked plane still sits there in the jungle today. Most tourists, especially Japanese ones, go there to learn more about their military past, and some just go to satisfy their curiosity about what an actual relic from World War II looked like. Even years after the war and after Japan's defeat, Yamamoto's name remains unsullied for this admirable contribution to Japan's short-lived victory during the war. However, the people of the West do not share the same sentiment, as they view this grave site as a remarkable turning point in their history. Number 4. A boiling river. How often do you hear about a hot river in the middle of a jungle? Not often. If that is the case for you, then you have never heard of the boiling river deep in the heart of the Amazon. In 2011, Andres Russo, a geoscientist working on a thermal map of Peru, went in search of the rumored spectacle hidden in the dense forest. He traveled by car, canoe, and foot to a remote swath of the Amazon populated by white-throated toucans, jaguars, and indigenous tribes with a rich shamanic culture. In this region of the thick central Peruvian Amazon, over 400 miles from the nearest volcano, he finally found what he had been searching for: the boiling river. It was a flowing, 4-mile-long river as wide as a 2-lane road and over 16 feet deep in certain places. In addition, the water was hot enough to cook a small animal in seconds, averaging a degree of 186 degree F. The river had never been studied by scientists since its discovery by the locals, so investigations kicked off when Russo spotted it. Afterward, it was revealed that the factor responsible for heating the river lay in the river itself. Russo explained that the water sinks deep, spends some time underground taking heat from the earth, and then shoots back up through faults and cracks in the earth's surface to create this anomalously large thermal river. This phenomenon is unlike anything ever spotted in the deep wild, and you can imagine how intriguing the sight would be in person. If you ever come across this part of the Amazon forest, you might want to just settle for taking a gander at the scenery. But remember, desist from taking a dip because the temperature might cause far-reaching consequences. Number 3. Cuvette Centrale, the Congo's hidden carbon bomb. In 2017, a group of researchers discovered the world's largest tropical peatland, hidden in the Cuvette Centrale, the heart of the Congo Basin. This area hosts the greatest storage of carbon in Africa, with an estimated 30 billion tons resting beneath the surface. The peatlands, as was discovered, cover the Congo, and scientists posit that they could play a vital role in fighting against climate change. By definition, peatlands are a type of wetland ecosystem characterized by the accumulation of peat soil. They cover 3% of the Earth's surface, and most of them, especially this type of wetland, contain peat soil derived from dead and decaying, or even decayed plants. Then, waterlogged conditions allow plants to accumulate, resulting in the formation of peat. The peatland in the Congo is estimated to have built up for over 10,000 years.
Such depths here, which suggest that possibly, after some more exploration,
following the end of the last ice age. So how does this piece of decaying matter help climate change, you may ask? Well, experts explain that through photosynthesis, several peatland plants containing significant amounts of carbon become locked away in the layers of peat soil. Peatlands store considerably more carbon than the world's forests. That said, scientists believe that if a third of the Congo peatlands were to burn, global temperatures would rise by 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and this would worsen climate change. Therefore, actions must be put in place to avoid burning these matters. Can you imagine that? One of the solutions to the Earth's environmental concerns lies in the depths of a jungle. This fact makes the whole discovery surreal. Unfortunately, the Cuvette Centrale peatland is vulnerable to deforestation and drainage as industries seek to make room for agriculture, particularly for palm oil in the region. If left in the hands of these people, the world's climate predicament would take a devastating hit. Number 2. Killer fungi. Numerous organisms live in forests. One, like the cordyceps, a genus of fungi, has a worldwide distribution. Almost 400 species of its kind are found in the humid and tropical regions of Asia in countries like China, Thailand, Vietnam, Korea, Japan, and many others. This fungus is parasitic in nature, only attacking insects and growing on them. Although the target insects of cordyceps vary according to the fungus's species, most attack ants. They usually infect these insects with their spores and take control of them till they die. Like a scene out of a twisted sci-fi movie, the fungi make zombies out of its host, controlling them to go up foliages before making them fix themselves to a leaf or twig to give room for the fungi to grow. In a way, this helps in population control. For instance, it is estimated that over 8 million ants cover a single hectare of tropical forest. With this fungus on the loose, the number can be controlled, and animal life in the forest can be put in an optimal range. Number 1. The largest flower in the world. The jungle is home to numerous diverse species that make up the Earth's biodiversity. Among these organisms is the world's largest flower, the Rafflesia arnoldii. It is the world's largest bloom, and a completely rare flower that can only be found in the rainforest of Indonesia. Biologically, the Rafflesia arnoldii, otherwise known as the corpse flower, can grow to be 3 feet across and weigh up to 15 pounds. It is a parasitic plant with no visible leaves, roots, or stem, which makes its classification as a flower quite the irony.
5 perigon lobes, which are equivalent to the petals of any other flower.
The plant attaches itself to host plants to obtain water and nutrients. Then when it blooms, it emits a repulsive odor, similar to that of rotting meat. It is this odor that attracts insects that help pollinate it. It can take up to 10 months for the flower to go from bulb to full bloom, and when it does, it might stay like that for only a few days or a week. So, you might not be lucky enough to see this flower in all its glory, even if you head into the Southeast Asian jungles multiple times a year.